Two men in a creek bed, water to their shins. Neither one is moving. The first is American Green Beret, 26 years old. He's from a town in North Carolina with one traffic light and a Baptist church on every corner. He's carrying a CAR-15, 4 magazines, a Browning pistol, and a Bowie knife he bought in Saigon for $3. He's been in country for 5 months. He has killed 11 men. He does not know their names. The second is Australian Special Air Service Regiment, 28, from a cattle station outside Longreach, Queensland. He hasn't spoken in 4 hours. He's carrying a shortened L1A1 self-loading rifle, a Browning 9mm, and an Owen gun he liberated from an ARVN supply depot because he liked the balance. He's been in country for 12 months. He does not talk about his kills. The creek smells like rust and rot. Something moves upstream. A branch. Maybe. The American raises his rifle. The Australian puts one finger on his wrist, holds it there, doesn't look at him, doesn't need to. The message is clear. Don't. 30 seconds pass. A monitor lizard slides off a submerged log and disappears into brown water. The branch was the lizard's tail. The American exhales. The Australian doesn't. He stopped reacting to false signals about 9 months ago. His nervous system has been recalibrated by the jungle. He processes threat data the way a crocodile processes movement across the surface of a river. Calmly, constantly, without urgency, until urgency is required. This is Viet Cong province, 1968. The wet season hasn't broken yet, but you can taste it. The air is so thick with moisture, it feels like breathing through a warm cloth. Everything is green and everything is rotting, and the distinction between the two is almost impossible to determine. Insects the size of rifle cartridges crawl across every surface. The canopy overhead is so dense that at noon the light on the jungle floor is the color of weak tea. Somewhere north of this creek bed, a company of Viet Cong main force soldiers are moving supplies along a trail the Americans don't know exists. The Australian knows it exists. He's been watching it for 3 days. This is the war most people think they understand. Vietnam. America's war. One with the helicopters and the napalm and Creedence Clearwater Revival on the soundtrack. And that's not wrong. The United States sent over 2.7 million personnel to Vietnam between 1955 and 1975. They fought the largest air campaign in human history. They dropped more bomb tonnage on Southeast Asia than was dropped by all sides in World War II combined. They lost over 58,000 killed. They changed the definition of warfare, of protest, of trauma, of what a country owes the people it sends to fight. But there's another war inside that war, a quieter one, fought in smaller numbers, with different methods, on different terms. And if you measure that war not by scale but by efficiency, not by how many men you sent but by what each man accomplished, the answer to who was deadlier is not the answer most people expect. The Australian SAS operated in Vietnam from 1966 to 1971. At peak strength, there were never more than around 150 SAS operators in country at any given time. They worked in 5-man patrols. They carried everything on their backs. They stayed in the jungle for days, sometimes weeks, moving through terrain that would break a conventional infantry platoon in 48 hours. They did not call for extraction when things got hard. They did not call for fire support unless the alternative was annihilation. And they achieved something that remains one of the most remarkable kill efficiency records in modern special operations history. But we're getting ahead of the story. Stay in the creek bed. Stay with these two men, because the next 11 hours will tell you more about the difference between American and Australian special operations in Vietnam than any lecture ever could. The American's name is Staff Sergeant Dean Kowalski. He's been assigned as a liaison to the Australian SAS patrol as part of an intelligence sharing operation that neither command is particularly enthusiastic about. He arrived at the Australian base at Nui Dat 4 days ago, and the first thing he noticed was the quiet. American bases in Vietnam are loud. Generators, music, helicopters cycling on pads, men shouting. The energy of a nation that fights wars the way it builds cities. Big, fast, and with total confidence in its own machinery. Nui Dat was different. The SAS compound was separated from the main task force area by a wire perimeter and a culture gap wider than the South China Sea. The tents were orderly. Gear was laid out with obsessive precision. Men moved with economy. Nobody was playing cards. Nobody was blasting the stones from a transistor radio. The loudest sound was a whetstone on a blade. Kowalski had done 2 tours with 5th Special Forces Group. He'd run operations with Montagnard tribesmen in the Central Highlands. He'd survived an ambush on the Cambodian border that killed 4 of his teammates. He was not a man who impressed easily, but something about the Australian compound put a wire in his spine. It felt like walking into a predator's den. Everyone was calm. Everyone was watching. He met the patrol commander on the afternoon of his 2nd day, Sergeant David Hadley, 28, lean in a way that suggested the jungle had boiled every unnecessary ounce of his frame and kept only what was useful. Skin the color of tanned leather. Eyes that tracked movement with a mechanical precision that Kowalski recognized because he'd seen it in exactly 3 other men in his career, and 2 of them were dead. Hadley shook his hand. One firm pump. No smile, no small talk. We leave at 0400 day after tomorrow. You carry what we carry. You eat what we eat. You walk where I walk. You do not fire unless I fire first. Clear? Kowalski nodded. Hadley studied him for another second, then turned and walked away. That was the entire briefing. In the American Special Forces system, a pre-mission briefing could run 2 hours. Maps, overlays, fire support coordination, extraction plans, contingency protocols, radio frequencies, code words, medical evacuation procedures, rules of engagement clarification. The American way of war is systematic, layered, built on redundancy and overwhelming support infrastructure. A 12-man A-team in Vietnam could call on tactical airstrikes, naval gunfire, artillery from multiple fire-based positions, helicopter gunship support, and medevac extraction within minutes. The system behind each team was enormous. That was its strength. The Australian way was different. A 5-man SAS patrol briefing at Nui Dat covered 3 things. Where are we going? What are we looking for? When do we come back? Everything else, movement technique, contact drills, communication protocols, was already hardwired into the team through months of selection, training, and shared operations. They didn't need to brief it because they'd already become it. 0400. 3rd day. 5 men and 1 American standing at the edge of the wire. Darkness so complete that Kowalski can't see his own boots. The air smells like diesel and wet earth and gun oil. Someone has been chewing something bitter, betel nut, maybe, and the smell is sharp and close. Hadley taps the point man on the shoulder. They move. No words, no hand signals. The point man steps into the darkness, and the patrol follows at intervals of 3 meters, each man placing his feet into the footprints of the man ahead. They move in single file through the rubber plantation that borders the base. The trees standing in rows like soldiers on parade, and within 200 meters, the lights of Nui Dat have vanished completely, and there is nothing but jungle and darkness and the sound of 5 men breathing. Kowalski is walking 3rd in the order of march. He's trying to match the pace and he's struggling. Not because the Australians are fast. They're not. They're agonizingly slow. Each step is deliberate, placed. The point man tests the ground with his toe before committing weight. Every 5 steps the patrol stops, listens, processes, then moves again. In 30 minutes, they cover less than 400 meters. For an American operator, used to helicopter insertion and aggressive movement to contact, this pace is maddening. It is also the single most important tactical difference between the 2 forces. The US Special Forces in Vietnam, particularly 5th Special Forces Group and the Studies and Observations Group, known as SOG, were among the most lethal unconventional warfare units ever fielded. SOG teams ran cross-border operations into Laos, Cambodia, and North Vietnam that remain some of the most dangerous missions in American military history. A typical SOG team consisted of 2 or 3 Americans and 8 to 12 indigenous soldiers. They inserted by helicopter, often into hot landing zones, and operated deep behind enemy lines with minimal support. The casualty rates were staggering. SOG had a 100% casualty rate over the course of the war. Every man who served with SOG was either killed or wounded. Some teams were wiped out entirely within hours of insertion. The Americans fought with extraordinary courage. They also fought loud. Helicopter insertion meant the enemy often knew they were coming. The rotor signature of a Huey or a King Bee could be heard from kilometers away. NVA counter-recon teams became experts at tracking insertion points and setting ambushes along likely routes of march. SOG teams frequently found themselves in running firefights within hours of landing. The response to contact was aggressive. Break contact with overwhelming firepower. Call for extraction. Bring in air support. The American doctrine was built on the assumption that you would be found. The question was how much damage you could inflict before you were overwhelmed. The Australian doctrine asked a different question entirely. What if you were never found at all? Dawn. First light filtering through triple canopy. The color of the world shifts from black to gray to a deep, suffocating green. Kowalski can now see the man in front of him. Corporal Mike Brennan, patrol signaller, 24, from Parramatta in Western Sydney. He's carrying the radio, an AN/PRC-25, plus his personal weapon, water, rations, and ammunition. The load is close to 40 kilograms. He hasn't made a sound. The patrol reaches a ridgeline, and Hadley signals a halt. 5 men lower themselves to the ground in a formation so practiced it looks choreographed. Each man faces outward. Fields of fire interlock. Hadley pulls out a map and studies it for 2 minutes, puts it away, taps Brennan on the boot. Brennan crawls over. They communicate in hand signals and whispers so quiet that Kowalski, 3 meters away, can hear nothing. This is standard operating procedure for an Australian SAS patrol in Vietnam. The patrol will spend the next 72 hours in this jungle. In that time, they will cover approximately 5 kilometers. They will stop roughly every 100 meters to listen. They will establish a harbor position each night in terrain so dense that an enemy soldier could walk within 10 meters and not see them. They will not cook food. They will eat cold rations. They will not wash. They will not remove their boots. They will urinate into bottles and carry the bottles with them. They will defecate into plastic bags and carry the bags with them. They will leave no trace that they were ever here. This is not how the American Green Berets operate. This is not how SOG operates. This is something else entirely. This is the doctrine of the Phantom Patrol, and it is the reason that the Viet Cong gave the Australian SAS a name that no other Allied unit received. Rung, the Phantoms of the Jungle. Kowalski doesn't know this yet. He will by tomorrow morning, midday. The heat is unbearable. 41 degrees Celsius in the canopy. Humidity at 96%. Kowalski's uniform is soaked through. Sweat runs into his eyes and stings. He wants to drink, but Hadley hasn't signaled a water stop. He waits. The point man, Private Chris Aldridge, 23, from Hobart, Tasmania, raises his fist. Everyone freezes. Aldridge sinks to one knee. His rifle comes up in a motion so fluid it doesn't seem voluntary. He holds the position for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a minute. Nobody breathes. Then he extends his hand, palm down, pats the air twice. All clear. Animal movement. They continue. This happens 9 more times in the next 4 hours. 9 times the patrol freezes. 9 times every man becomes a statue. 9 times the jungle is processed, assessed, and cleared. One of those stops lasts 11 minutes. Kowalski never learns what Aldridge heard. He doesn't ask. By 1600 hours, they've covered 2.3 kilometers from the line of departure. They've been moving for 12 hours. In that time, they have encountered no enemy forces, but Hadley has identified and marked 3 trail junctions, 2 water sources, and a recently used campfire site. He has noted the direction of foot traffic on the trails. He has estimated the age of the campfire ash. He has catalogued the type of rations discarded nearby. Rice wrapped in banana leaves, standard Viet Cong main force issue. He has built a picture of the enemy's pattern of life without the enemy knowing he exists. This is intelligence gathering at its most fundamental level. And it is the mission that the Australian SAS performed better than any other unit in Vietnam. Not because they were braver, not because they had better weapons or more support, because they had mastered the art of not being there. The numbers tell a story that still surprises military historians. Over 5 years of operations in Phuoc Thu province, Australian SAS patrols conducted over 1,200 patrols. They operated in 5-man teams. They sustained remarkably low casualties. 5 killed in action over the entire deployment. 5 men out of roughly 500 who served in the squadron over 5 years. During the same period, they accounted for an estimated 500 or more enemy killed. The ratio is almost incomprehensible. For every SAS soldier killed, approximately 100 enemy fighters died. No other special operations unit on either side of the conflict achieved anything close to that efficiency. Not the Green Berets, not SOG, not the Navy SEALs, not the Korean Tiger Division, not the ARVN Rangers. Nobody. And before the reflexive objection lands, yes, the Australians operated in a smaller area with a more concentrated enemy, with different mission parameters. The comparisons are not perfectly clean. War never is, but the efficiency gap is so vast that controlling for variables still leaves you staring at something extraordinary. The American SOG teams, by contrast, operated with breathtaking courage in some of the most dangerous territory in the war. Their kill ratios were impressive by any conventional standard, but their casualty rates were devastating. Approximately 300 Americans were killed serving with SOG, with thousands more wounded. The teams routinely fought against overwhelming odds, often outnumbered 10 or 20 to 1. They relied on fire support and extraction capabilities that didn't always arrive in time. The difference was not courage. Both forces had that in excess. The difference was philosophy. Night, 1922 hours. The patrol has established a harbor position on a slight rise, surrounded by vegetation so thick that the nearest line of sight is about 4 meters. 5 men lying in a circle, heads toward the center, weapons facing outward. The ground is wet. Insects are crawling over everything. Something with too many legs has found the inside of Kowalski's collar, and he wants desperately to crush it, but he doesn't move, because nobody else is moving, and the silence is so total that the sound of his hand against his neck would be like a gunshot. Hadley is 3 feet away. His eyes are open. He is not sleeping. He is listening. The jungle at night is not quiet. It is a wall of sound. Cicadas, frogs, birds, the rustle of animals in the undergrowth, the drip of condensation from leaves. But within that wall of sound, there are patterns, and the Australian SAS operators have learned to read those patterns the way a sailor reads the sea. A sudden silence in the insect chorus means something has disturbed the environment. A change in the frog pattern means movement on a trail. The absence of a bird call that should be there means a human presence has displaced it. Hadley is reading the jungle like a book, and right now the book is telling him something. He reaches over and touches Kowalski's forearm. 2 taps. Kowalski freezes. Then he hears it. Voices, Vietnamese, low and conversational, coming from the southeast, maybe 80 meters away, maybe less. Moving along the trail they identified 6 hours ago. Kowalski's training kicks in. His hand finds his rifle. His thumb verifies the selector is on safe. His body tenses for action. In his experience, enemy contact means one of 2 things. You ambush or you break contact. Either way, something is about to happen. Nothing happens. Hadley doesn't move. Nobody moves. The voices get closer. Kowalski can hear individual words now. He can hear equipment rattling. He can hear footsteps on packed earth. The enemy is close. Very close. Close enough that he can smell tobacco smoke drifting through the undergrowth. His heart is hammering. He can feel his pulse in his throat. 20 minutes. The column passes. Kowalski counts voices. At least 15, maybe 20. An entire platoon moving through the darkness, less than 70 meters from 5 men, and an American who is learning something new about what patience means. The voices fade. The insects resume. The frogs adjust their rhythm. Hadley waits another 40 minutes. Then he moves to Brennan. A whispered conversation that lasts less than 10 seconds. Brennan keys the radio handset 3 times. 3 clicks. No voice transmission. At the other end, somewhere in the communications tent at Nui Dat, an operator logs the signal. Contact, enemy platoon, grid reference, direction of travel, time. That intelligence will be processed, correlated with other patrol reports, and fed into the targeting cycle. Within 72 hours, that Viet Cong platoon will walk into an ambush set by an Australian infantry company positioned on the basis of the SAS patrol's reporting. 14 enemy fighters will die. The infantry company will sustain 0 casualties. The SAS patrol will not fire a shot. This is the Australian way of war in microcosm. The SAS didn't measure success by the firefights they won. They measured it by the firefights they made possible for others. They were the eyes, the ears, the invisible nervous system of the task force. And when they did fight, when contact was unavoidable, or when a target of opportunity presented itself, they fought with a clinical precision that terrified the enemy. The Viet Cong in Phuoc Thu province learned to fear the phantoms. Documents captured after the war revealed standing orders to avoid contact with the Rung. Not because they couldn't fight, they could and did, but because the phantoms had a way of turning every engagement into a slaughter. An SAS patrol caught in contact would break in a direction the enemy didn't expect, loop around, and hit them from the flank. Or they'd go silent, disappear into the vegetation, and reappear behind the pursuing force. Or they'd call artillery with such precision that rounds landed within 50 meters of their own position. The Viet Cong couldn't predict them, couldn't track them, couldn't find their camps, couldn't ambush them. The phantoms came and went, and the only evidence they'd been there was the intelligence that led to the next ambush. Now, contrast. Cu Chi, 1967. A forward operating base for the 25th Infantry Division and its attached special operations elements. The base is loud, generators humming, a Huey coming in hot to the medical pad. Dust everywhere, the smell of jet fuel and cordite and institutional cooking. Somebody is playing Purple Haze on a cassette player and the bass line is rattling a corrugated iron wall. Inside a plywood briefing hut, a 12-man SOG team is getting their operations order for a cross-border mission into the Fishhook region of Cambodia. The target is a suspected NVA regimental headquarters. Intelligence suggests a battalion plus force in the area. The team will consist of 3 Americans and 9 Montagnard soldiers. The briefing officer goes through the plan. Insertion by helicopter. 2 Hueys with a Cobra gunship escort. Landing zone is a clearing on a ridgeline 8 kilometers inside Cambodia. The team will move on foot to the target area, establish observation, and report enemy dispositions. If the opportunity presents itself, they'll call in an arc-light strike. B-52 bombers, the kind of firepower that reshapes geography. Extraction is planned for 72 hours after insertion. Primary landing zone. Alternate landing zone. Emergency extraction procedures involving a Maguire rig, a harness lowered from a hovering helicopter that pulls you out through the canopy while the jungle tries to keep you. The team leader is Sergeant First Class Robert Dwyer, 30, Michigan. 2 previous tours. He has a scar that runs from his left ear to his jawline, courtesy of a piece of shrapnel from an RPG that detonated 6 feet from his position during his first tour. He listens to the briefing with the focused attention of a man who knows the difference between a good plan and surviving. 0530. Next morning, 2 Hueys inbound. The team is loaded and ready, faces painted, weapons charged. The Montagnard soldiers are quiet. They've done this before. They know what's coming. The helicopter lifts off and the base drops away, and for a few minutes, there's just the noise and the wind and the green carpet of jungle sliding beneath them. Then the LZ. The Huey flares. The skids touch grass. The team piles out. 8 seconds from touchdown to the tree line, the helicopter lifts and banks hard, and is gone. Silence. Except it's not silence. The jungle doesn't offer silence. It offers degrees of noise. And right now, the degree is wrong. The insects have stopped. The birds have stopped. The air itself feels held, like the moment between a lightning flash and the thunder. Dwyer knows what this means. Contact, left. The first burst of AK fire comes from 70 meters, then 50. Then it's everywhere. The tree line is alive with muzzle flashes. The NVA have been waiting. They watched the helicopters come in. They knew the landing zone. They've been sitting in prepared positions for hours, maybe days, and the SOG team has landed directly in front of a reinforced platoon. This is the reality of helicopter insertion in Vietnam. The machines that give you speed and reach also give the enemy a precise grid reference for your arrival. Dwyer is on the radio in seconds. Prairie fire, prairie fire, prairie fire. The emergency extraction call. The call that means everything has gone wrong and we need to leave right now. The Cobras come first, rolling in hot with rockets and minigun fire that tears the tree line apart. The noise is beyond description. It's not sound anymore. It's a physical force that compresses the air in your chest and makes your vision blur. The team fights. The Montagnards are disciplined and brave. They pour fire into the tree line, maneuvering by pairs, covering each other's movement. One of the Americans, a young sergeant on his first cross-border mission, takes a round through his left bicep and keeps firing one-handed. Dwyer is directing the Cobras onto targets with a calm professionalism that would be remarkable in a classroom, let alone in the middle of a killing zone. 27 minutes after insertion, the extraction helicopters arrive. The team pulls back to the LZ under covering fire. 2 Montagnard soldiers are dead. 3 are wounded. The young American sergeant is losing blood fast. They load the casualties first, then the rest. The Huey lifts through a hail of small arms fire that punches holes in the fuselage and shatters a side window. They make it back to Cu Chi. The mission is logged as a compromise. No intelligence gathered, no observation established. 2 indigenous soldiers killed. 4 casualties total. The NVA regimental headquarters remains unlocated. This is not a failure of courage. Every man on that team fought with everything he had. Dwyer will receive a silver star for his actions. The young sergeant will receive a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star with V device. The Montagnard soldiers will receive nothing official from anyone. This is a failure of methodology colliding with an adaptive enemy. And this is the fundamental difference the numbers reveal. The American approach to special operations in Vietnam was built on speed, firepower, and technological superiority. Insert fast, hit hard, extract under fire if necessary. The system behind each team was massive: air support, artillery, medical evacuation, signals intelligence, satellite communications. An American special operations soldier in Vietnam had more firepower available on call than an entire Australian infantry battalion. The Australian approach was built on invisibility, patience, and self-sufficiency. Insert quietly, often on foot from a nearby patrol base. Move slowly, see without being seen, report. And if forced to fight, fight with such precision and speed that the enemy dies before understanding what's happening, then vanish. Both approaches had merits. Both produced extraordinary soldiers. But the survival rates tell an unambiguous story. Back in Phuoc 2, Day 2, 0600, the patrol is moving again. Kowalski has not slept. Not because he wasn't allowed to. The patrol rotates a sentry schedule that gives each man roughly 4 hours. But because every time he closed his eyes, he heard the enemy column and felt the nearness of 20 armed men walking past in darkness. The Australians slept. All of them. Even Hadley, who somehow managed to transition from total alertness to sleep and back again without any visible intermediate stage. Like a switch. On, off, on. Kowalski is beginning to understand something. These men are not operating on adrenaline. They're not running on the controlled aggression that fuels American special operators. They're running on something colder, something more reptilian, a state of sustained low-intensity alertness that never peaks and never drops. They can maintain it for days because it doesn't require the neurochemical spikes that burn out an operator running on the American model. He's seen Green Berets come back from a 5-day mission, vibrating with exhaustion and spent adrenaline, hands shaking, voices too loud. The crash after the high. These Australians don't seem to have a high or a crash. They operate at a flat line that is somehow more frightening than any peak he's witnessed. The patrol reaches the trail network that Hadley has been targeting. They set up an observation point 30 meters from a junction where two trails meet at the base of a slight ridge. The vegetation here is almost impossibly dense. Hadley positions each man personally, pushing them into natural depressions and hollows in the undergrowth. He arranges fern fronds over their positions. He checks sightlines. He removes a single leaf that is catching light in a way that creates an unnatural reflection. Then he disappears. Kowalski can't see him. The patrol commander is less than 5 meters away, and he is invisible. They wait. 0947, movement on the trail. 2 men. Viet Cong. They're carrying supplies in baskets, suspended from shoulder poles. They're talking quietly. One of them laughs. They pass within 12 meters of the observation point. They see nothing. 1114. 3 more. These are armed. AK-47s. One is carrying an RPG launcher on his back. They move with purpose. South to north they pass. They see nothing. 1420. 2. A larger group. 8 men, 3 women, some carrying weapons, others carrying rice in large sacks. This is a supply column. They're moving materiel from a cache to a staging area further north. Hadley is logging everything. Number of personnel, weapons observed, direction of movement, load sizes, estimated weight of supplies, pace. He has been compiling this log for 6 hours. The enemy has no idea it exists. At 1600, Brennan transmits a coded burst transmission. Less than 2 seconds on the air. The message contains the accumulated intelligence from the day's observation. Back at Nui Dat, the intelligence section correlates this with signals intelligence, aerial photography, and reports from other patrols. Within 24 hours, they will have a comprehensive picture of the enemy's supply network in this sector. Within 48 hours, that supply network will be destroyed. Now here is the question that matters. Not which force was braver. Bravery was never the variable. American and Australian special operators in Vietnam demonstrated courage that exceeds anything reasonable people should expect from other reasonable people. The question is, which approach was more lethal per soldier deployed? And the data does not leave much room for argument. The Australian SAS in Vietnam achieved a kill-to-loss ratio that has been estimated at approximately 100-to-1 or higher, depending on the source and the counting methodology. 5 SAS soldiers killed in action, approximately 500 or more enemy killed through direct action, ambush, and directed fire support. Each SAS soldier who deployed to Vietnam was, statistically, a devastatingly efficient instrument of war. The 5-man patrol structure meant that every individual carried a disproportionate share of the operational burden. Every man was a tracker, a navigator, a medic, a signaler, and a killer. The absence of any one man degraded the patrol's capability by 20%. The American SOG teams, operating in far more dangerous environments against larger enemy formations, achieved extraordinary things. They gathered intelligence that shaped strategic decisions. They disrupted enemy logistics across 3 countries. They rescued downed pilots. They captured prisoners. They fought battles that should have been impossible to survive, but the cost was immense. The casualty rate was 100%. Every man who served with SOG was hit. Many were hit multiple times. The kill ratios, while impressive for any conventional unit, were measured in single digits. Estimates suggest SOG teams inflicted between 8-to-1 and 15-to-1 kill ratios, depending on the operation and the period. For 5th Special Forces Group, running the Civilian Irregular Defense Group program and other advisory missions, the numbers are harder to isolate. Green Berets operated through indigenous forces, so their personal kill contributions are entangled with the performance of their Montagnard, Nung, and Vietnamese counterparts. But Green Beret casualties were significant, over 700 killed in Vietnam across all Special Forces elements. So you have 2 models. The American model, high risk, high intensity, enormous support infrastructure, strategic impact across a continent-sized theater, devastating human cost to the operators. The Australian model, low signature, extreme patience, minimal support dependency, tactical and operational impact concentrated in a single province, minimal human cost to the operators. Per soldier, The Australian SAS was deadlier. The mathematics, the simple division of enemy killed by friendly killed, does not lie. And while the comparison is imperfect because the mission's environments and strategic contexts were different, the efficiency gap is so large that no reasonable adjustment of variables closes it. The reason is not genetics. It's not superior training, though Australian SAS selection was and remains one of the most demanding special operations courses in the world. It's not equipment. The Australians often carried weapons that were a generation behind their American counterparts. The reason is doctrine. The Australians inherited their jungle warfare doctrine from the Malayan Emergency of the 1950s, where British and Australian forces spent 12 years fighting a communist insurgency in terrain almost identical to Vietnam. In Malaya, the security forces learned that the jungle is not an obstacle. It is a weapon. A side that understands the jungle better, that moves through it more quietly, that reads its signals more accurately, that uses its concealment more effectively. That side wins, not by fighting more, by fighting less, by seeing without being seen, by choosing when and where contact occurs, by making the enemy fear the jungle itself. The Americans had no equivalent institutional experience. U.S. Special forces were built for a different kind of unconventional warfare, raising and leading guerrilla forces behind enemy lines in the tradition of the OSS in World War II. This was an offensive, aggressive, relationship-driven model, and it worked brilliantly in many contexts. But in the specific environment of the Vietnamese jungle, against an enemy that had spent decades mastering that same terrain, the aggressive model carried a price that the quiet model did not. Final night. Third day, the patrol is moving to its extraction point. They've been in the jungle for 70 hours. They've covered 9 kilometers. They've logged 47 separate enemy sightings. They've identified 3 supply routes, 2 cache sites, and a rest area that will be targeted within the week. They have not fired a shot. They have not been detected. Kowalski is a different man than the one who walked into this jungle 3 days ago. He moves more slowly now, not because he's tired, though he is profoundly, but because he's learned something about the relationship between speed and survival that his training never taught him. He's learned that slowness is not weakness, that silence is not passivity, that the absence of action can be the most devastating action of all. He's learned something else too, something harder to articulate. The American way of war is built on the idea that you impose your will on the battlefield. You bring overwhelming force. You dictate the tempo. You control the narrative. This is not wrong. It is, in many contexts, exactly right. It won the Second World War. It will win most conventional conflicts. But the Australian way is built on a different idea. You don't impose your will on the battlefield. You become part of the battlefield. You dissolve into it. You let the terrain and the enemy and the rhythm of the environment tell you where the opportunities are. And then you exploit those opportunities with a precision that leaves the enemy unsure whether they're fighting men or ghosts. The extraction point. 0200. A clearing just large enough for a single helicopter. The patrol waits at the edge of the tree line. Hadley verifies the grid reference. Brennan transmits. 1 click on the handset. 20 minutes later, the helicopter comes. No lights. The pilot is flying on night vision goggles, navigating by terrain features in a darkness so complete that the horizon is indistinguishable from the sky. The aircraft flares. The patrol moves. 5 men and 1 American cross the clearing in seconds and pull themselves through the door. The helicopter lifts. Below, the jungle closes over the clearing like water over a stone. Within hours, the vegetation will have erased the skid marks. Within a day, there will be no evidence that anyone was ever there. Kowalski looks back. Hadley doesn't. He's already checking his weapon, already preparing for whatever comes next. His eyes are the same as they were 3 days ago. Flat, calm, reading. They land at Nui Dat. The patrol debriefs in 30 minutes. Hadley's report is precise, economical, and devastating in its implications for the enemy forces in the area. He delivers it without inflection. Then he walks to his tent, strips his equipment, cleans his weapon, and sleeps for 14 hours. Kowalski walks to the American liaison compound. He sits on his bunk. He stares at the wall. He will write a report for 5th Special Forces Group that is 5 pages long and will be classified for 30 years. The core assessment, when it's finally declassified, contains a single sentence that captures everything. The Australians have solved the jungle. He was right, but the full truth is more complex than a single sentence can hold. The Americans didn't need to solve the jungle. They were fighting a different war, larger, more ambitious, more strategic, more costly. They were trying to win a country, not a province. They were deploying hundreds of thousands of men across a theater that stretched from the Mekong Delta to the DMZ and beyond into Laos and Cambodia. The scale demanded methods that the Australian model couldn't provide. You can't run a continent-wide campaign with 5-man patrols. You can't interdict the Ho Chi Minh Trail with patience and hand signals. But if the question is narrow, which special forces were deadlier per soldier, then the answer is clear. And it's an answer that the American Special Operations community itself has acknowledged. The Australian SAS in Vietnam was the most efficient special operations force of the conflict, per man deployed, per round fired, per day in the field, per life lost. The reasons are doctrinal, cultural, and environmental. The Australians brought a jungle warfare tradition that was perfectly suited to the specific conditions of their operational area. They applied that tradition with a discipline and patience that produced results out of all proportion to their numbers. They fought a small war inside a big war, and they won it. The Americans fought the big war. They fought it with extraordinary valor and at extraordinary cost. Their special operations soldiers accomplished things in Vietnam that have never been replicated and probably never will be. SOG's cross-border operations remain the gold standard for strategic reconnaissance under impossible conditions. The Green Berets' work with indigenous forces created a model that persists to this day. But per soldier, the Australians were deadlier. And the reason is the simplest and oldest lesson in warfare. The most dangerous soldier is not the one with the most firepower. It's the one you never see. Nui dat. Late afternoon, the sun is going down behind the rubber plantation. The air is cooling by fractions of a degree. Somewhere in the SAS compound, a man is sharpening a knife. The sound carries across the still air, a rhythmic whisper of steel on stone that goes on and on and on. Kowalski hears it from the liaison compound. He stops writing. He listens. In 3 days, he will return to his unit. In 3 weeks, he will run another mission in the Central Highlands. In 3 months, he will rotate back to the United States. He will serve 22 more years. He will retire as a command sergeant major. He will never talk about what he saw in Phuoc Tu province. But for the rest of his life, when someone asks him about the best soldiers he ever served with, he will go quiet. He will look at something in the middle distance that isn't there, and he will say, one word, Australians. The sound of the whetstone stops. The jungle darkens. Somewhere out there, a 5-man patrol is crossing the wire.